In this video, you're going to learn how to build a community forum in your Bubble application. If you're looking to put together any kind of discussion hub, keep in mind that there are many structural components that have to come together behind the scenes. So we're going to walk you through those important data setups, page layouts, navigation, of course show you how to create those discussion topics and replies, a couple of social features as well. Again, you need to have these pieces in place so that you can have an effective experience that can scale long term. So we're going to get started with a quick overview of what you'll be learning today. Right now we're looking at the home view of my example forum. On the left-hand side, I can switch between different categories that have been created custom for this forum by an admin user. So right now I'm logged into the application as Monica Geller, who has an admin role, and that gives her access to the settings here. And so one of the things she can do is manage her categories. She can create as many as she wants. I'm just clicking on this add category button here. You can see I can create as many as I want there. And then I can also, of course, name them and color code them. So for example, if I wanted to change the color of the general category to a green, click on select, you can see it changes back there. Anywhere we display the name of the category will also show the color just to make it easier to identify throughout the app. So I just changed it back to that blue. We also have a little count on how many posts currently exist within that category, just so the user knows, before they delete a category. Then on the right-hand side, you can see the list of posts within the category that you're selected on. So right now I'm on all categories, so I'll see posts across just everything. So I have 2 in general, 1 in assignments. If I go to assignments, it's filtered down to just that one post. Go to general, filter down to those 2 posts. So within kind of the summary here of the post, we see the author, their name, their role, their photo, the title of the post, the category that it's in. The upper right corner is going to be how long ago the last edit was made, or if the post is brand new, just when it was created, or if there was a reply, when the last reply was. That way you can see which posts are currently active. Then we have a couple of action items here. So if you're the creator of the post, you can delete, and also if you're the admin, so I'm able to see delete for all posts. How many likes it's received. If you want to follow the post, you can see I just clicked on that there. Then anytime a new reply is added, then I'm going to see a little bell icon next to the title, so it can help me identify that there's something new in there that I haven't read yet, and this post was one that I wanted to bookmark for myself. We can also see the number of replies that the post has. So if I click into this here, now I'm going to see the full post. Okay, so this is the author, the contents that the author wrote in. Down below, I can write in a reply if I want. So I'm going to say, this is a great question. I'm following this post. Like that. I'll hit reply. You can see now there's 3 replies and mine's at the very end. Okay, so now this is a thread of any replies that have been added in response to the post here. So this is kind of a conversation between whoever wants to participate. Okay, and then every reply has also a time frame, so we know how long ago it was created. Again, if you're the author or the admin, you can delete replies. You can like individual replies. So if I click like here, there's 1 like. And if I created a reply, I also have the ability to edit my own reply just in line here within the thread. Okay, now if I go back out to the main screen here, let's say I wanted to create a new post. If I'm in one of the categories, it's going to auto select the category here, or I can switch it to a different one. So I'm going to create a sample post here. Let's say slides from presentation. And let's add some content. Hey everyone, here are the slides from today. And let's say I entered in a link there. You can see that you have all the normal formatting tools for customizing your text, inserting photos, links, things like that. So I'll click on create, and you can see this is automatically taking me to the post I just created, right, a few seconds ago. There aren't any replies because it's brand new. And again, if I wanted to edit my own post, I can click on this edit button here to make any modifications. Let's say I just want to bold this, maybe make this colored in some way. Let's change the background color here just to get an idea there, and then I'll click on save, right? So it'll retain all of that formatting. If I go back out to resources, I can see there's that 1 post. Go back to the all categories. I can see that it's added to the, the main list here, right? So this is just tip of the iceberg, but this is a good baseline for you to get started with. But of course, there's so much more you can do if you wanted to implement a search feature, if you wanted to do mentions, if you wanted to trigger email notifications or an activity feed so that users are, they have a more granular look at what's going on in the forum. All of that is certainly possible, but you do want to start with a baseline of just managing the post within the forum, because that's what the forum is really centered on. And so you don't want to get too far ahead without that management in place. All right, now that you have some context over what we're going to focus on here, let's start with the database structure so you can see how we're organizing all of the content within the forum. So for the features that I showed you earlier, we're working with 5 different data types here, as well as 1 option set. This option set for role allows me to distinguish between my different users if I want to create different access rights for who can do what within the forum. So in my example, I have mentors and entrepreneurs asking and answering questions. They're really the primary audience of the forum. Then we have moderators who, may be able to do a little bit more. Maybe they can manage categories, maybe they can flag spam, things like that. Then we have admin role, which can do everything. They can, manage users, they can create categories and manage those as well. They can delete posts and replies as they see fit. So this is really just an example. If you have a situation where you want different tiers of user rights, then an option set is a great way to categorize those different role levels. Now, in the data types under the built-in user type, we have several fields here to build out the user profile and keep track of their preferences. So we have a text field here for the first name as well as last name. We have an image field here for the photo. Here's the role field that ties to that option set, so they can be one of these choices. We have a list field here called following posts, which is just a list of posts. And what this list is going to do is help keep track of all of the posts the user wants to follow. So right now I'm logged in as Phoebe, and Phoebe is following this post here. How do you know when it's time to pivot? Let's say Phoebe also wants to follow the welcome to the community. So now Phoebe's following 2 posts. If I go over to my app data, here, and if we look at Phoebe's record, you can see there's a list for this field, right? Those 2 posts Phoebe is following, and you can see that the bell icon is displayed here for this first one, because that means that there are replies that Phoebe has not yet seen. And in fact, that bell icon is going to be managed by this second list field here, post notifications. So anytime a new reply is created, that post will get added to this list so that we can display this bell. And then once Phoebe opens up the thread and has gone through all of the replies there and go back to the start, we can see that the bell goes away. So the following post field is just to keep track of what the user wants to follow, whereas post notifications is more of a temporary field that says, okay, out of the posts that you are following, these are the ones that have new activity that you haven't seen yet, right? New replies. And then once they open them up, it'll be removed from the field. All right, so that's our user data type for now. Now let's go over to the post data type. This is really the heart of everything. Every post will be tied to a category, which is another data type that we have. The post will also have the primary content. That's the text that's created from the rich text editor where the user types everything in. We also have a date field here to keep track of when the last reply was added to the post. This helps us keep things a bit more efficient. We don't have to do searches for those replies. We also don't have to keep a big list of replies. Imagine a very popular post with hundreds of replies. This will help keep things a lot smaller for this record. We also have, for the same concept, just a number field for how many likes and a number field for how many replies have been added to the post. Now, we do have a separate data type for liked content so that we can keep track of who liked or replied to the post. This way, we can't have people double liking a single post. It allows us to keep those things unique, okay? And we can count up the unique likes, the unique replies for every individual post. But if we have those counts at the post level, we don't always have to go searching through the liked content in order to find those numbers. Again, this is more for efficiency and keeping things as optimized as possible. Then we also have a text field for the title, of course, for the post. And you can see that for the like count and reply count, we default those values to 0. That's where every post will start. And then we have the reply data type. So these are the responses that get added to the, the conversation thread there within a single post. A reply is going to have a relationship to the parent post. Of course, it's going to have its own content. Type into a rich text editor to post your reply. This is a text, and then also a like count, a number field for the replies, because we are allowing users to not just like individual posts, right? So this one right here at the top, but they can also like individual replies. Maybe there's a more popular reply than others, or if a question is being asked, you know, the likes can help identify the most popular answer, something like that. All right, now the final data type here is the category data type. So this is where the admin was able to manage those categories. You can see the list here with the colors and everything. So very simple structure. We have a text field for the name of the category and a text field for the color code that is being saved to the category. Okay, real quick here. If you're finding this helpful, we have so much more to teach you in our free extended workshop over at coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop, where we'll guide you through our 4-phased approach for going from idea to app. So if you're looking for a start to finish guide, go ahead and register for it when you're done with this video, and you'll get immediate access to the training. I've got the link in the description below and on the screen right now. For now, let's head back to our lesson. Next up, we're going to take a look at the page structure and navigation system so you can get a better sense of how we can move users from screen to screen as they're interacting with the forum. Everything you've seen so far is happening on one single page. We're using custom states to help us keep track of the selected category and/or the selected post. So for example, if I choose a category from my list here, let's say assignments, we're using a custom state to keep track of that one selection, and that's also going to filter my list on the right. And then if I go into this post here, we're using another custom state to keep track of that selection and also show this design here where we see the post details with the rich text editor and all of the replies for that post. Okay, so that is the navigation between the different screens. You'll notice at the top here, our page doesn't actually change. Everything is built on our index page in our demo app. Now, as far as the framing, in the layout of this page, we have a floating group at the top here, so that as I scroll up and down, this top bar is always present, and we also have a floating group on the left. So we essentially create this frame where the primary content is what we can scroll up and down on, but everything else stays fixed so that we always have access to it. And we're also using 2 separate reusable elements to help us stay consistent in our design. The first is this action bar that you see here where we display the count of replies, follow post, and the count of likes. That's the first place we have it. If I open up the post, we're going to see it again at the top of the screen. And actually, let me go to a post that has a few replies here because we also see that action bar within each reply. Now, depending where that action bar is placed, we may show or hide other elements, and also depending on the relationship between the user and the reply or the post itself. They may be able to do more or less based on that relationship. The other reusable element that we have is this user design here with the image, the name, and their role. We also see that in a few places. So up here in the upper right corner to show the current user's details. Then we have the author of the post in this primary view. Clicking into the post, we see the author again, and then of course we see that info for each reply, so each author of the individual replies. That's a lot of different places where we want to display things the exact same way, so a reusable element is a great use case for that. Jumping into the editor, let's see how this navigation came together. First thing I want to point out is my primary group here. I've called this group main. I usually have one of these containers on any page for any type of application to help me organize where the majority of my content is going to live. Inside of this group, I have 2 subgroups. Okay, so these are my 2 main views. So the first main view is the list of posts, and depending on whether I'm filtered on a category or not, this is still the same view. Okay, the second view is if I open up a post, then I can see the full thread here with the rich text editor to put in a reply, and I can see the original post. Okay, so inside of my group main, those are the 2 views. I have my list of posts. Okay, so that's the first one, and then I also have my thread. All right. Now on group main, I have 2 custom states. I have a state called selected category and a state called selected post. So selected category is value format category, and then selected post is post. Okay, so these aren't just texts. These are actually pointing to a record, a category record and a post record in the database. And these are going to drive which group I see and the content that we see within them. So it's going to actually serve as data sources for us. On the left-hand side, here in my menu, I have a repeating group of all the categories that have been created in the database by the users. So it's dynamic. Okay, so this is just a search for categories. And I also have a group at the top that's always going to be there. That's a fixed group so that they can go and see basically an unfiltered list of posts. So all categories here. So on the right-hand side, let's look at post list. I have a repeating group. Let's go to this element here to search for all posts filtered on a specific category. Okay, searching for posts with a constraint, category equals parent group's category. The parent group of the repeating group is this element right here, group post list. You can see that the data source of this group is pointing to a specific category. In this case, it's pointing to my custom state. And this custom state needs to be defined through a workflow because this is always going to change. If the user wants to see a specific category from this list, we need to change that value to their selection. That'll have a ripple effect through all of these elements. Okay, so let's actually take a look at that flow. So if the user clicks on a specific cell here within the repeating group, okay, what this is going to do is set the state. This is a set state action. On the group main element, the state is the selected category, and the value is going to be the current cell's category. So let's say they chose, assignments here. Okay, so it'll change this value to assignments. If they change their mind, it'll override it with their new selection. Okay, so let's say they choose resources. Okay, it's just going to replace that value. Whatever category value that is going to define the data source of this group here. This is that subgroup to show all of my posts. Okay, and the repeating group is going to pull from that as well. It's going to filter the post based on that selection. Okay, so back to the workflow. It's going to set the value to current cell's category. You'll notice that we're also clearing the value for selected posts, because if I'm coming from within a post and then I go back to the category here, I need to make sure that my post is deselected, right? I'm no longer looking at a specific post. And that's actually the second part of this navigation, is when I select a post within this repeating group here. Okay, so we're going to select that. This is going to set the state of the selected post to whatever that cell's value is, right? Because that's a repeating group of posts. So I'm choosing a specific post record. Okay, now the visibility of these inner groups are based on those custom states. My list of posts view, okay, this is the first view, the default view. By default, it will be visible. But we have a condition that says if there is a selected post, right, if this is not empty, then we're going to hide this group. And instead, we're going to show the other group. The other group here, my thread, so it's got the same condition, but the property changes opposite. Okay, by default, the thread group is hidden, and the condition makes it visible. So they just swap places in their visibility based on whether we have a selected post or not. Okay, so again, if I choose a post, I'm giving this a value. That makes that first view hidden, the second view visible. And the data source of the thread group is going to be that selected post. That way, everything inside of it can look to this data source to display the relevant information, the post content, all of the related replies. Okay, so you can see group main selected post is my data source here. If I were to click on all categories, okay, this is going to clear the selected category value to nothing, and it's also going to clear the post as well. Because with no category selected, if we go back to our list group here and over to our repeating group of posts, with no category selected, it's as if there's no constraint, because you can see here we're also ignoring empty constraints. So then it will return all posts in the database. Okay, it's as if that constraint doesn't exist with this checked. If you were to leave this unchecked and this value was empty, it would only give you posts where the category value is intentionally left empty on that record. And that's not the behavior that we want here. Okay, so a few different trigger points. I click on a specific category and it's going to filter my repeating group on the right. If I select all categories, it clears that filter and so it shows me all posts. If I select a post, it will set the value of that selected post and change the visibility behavior on both of those so that this screen here is visible and the other one is hidden. And you can see the data source allows me to show the appropriate content here, the appropriate replies. You can also see that I have a back arrow icon to back me out of that. Let's actually go to that workflow here real quick. If I click on this icon, it's going to set the state of selected post to a blank value. So that reverses the visibility. But we don't clear the selected category, so I can actually return to the category that I was in. So for example, if I'm in resources, click on this post here, and then I go to back, I'm still in resources. So those two custom states you want to keep in mind when you're moving the user throughout these screens. We're also involving the states when we create a new post. So let's say I want to create a post here for showcase. Okay, notice that right now I'm on all categories. Let me show you real quick. I'm on all categories. if I create a new post for showcase, and I'm going to say, here's my showcase, I'm going to put in just a quick take a look at my work. Okay, and I'm going to click create. Not only are we creating a new post record, but we're also automatically setting the state of that post, that selected post custom state value, and the category, the selected category. So I'm jumping here immediately to this view, and I'm already in the showcase category if I were to go back to it. Okay, so if we go to that pop-up over here, that is create post, okay, and I go to create. It's going to do a few things. We're going to create our record, hide the pop-up, we're going to reset it. We'll take a look at these functions in just a moment. But the navigation here is in both of these values being set. The selected post is my new post record, and the selected category is my new post records category. In other words, it's also going to point to, it's the same as pointing to this drop-down, because this drop-down is being saved to the record. So we can kind of help the user just kind of automatically get to the view that's the most natural next step for them, rather than having them navigate to the right category or find, hunting down their post. We take them immediately there. Let's take a look at the structure of the rest of the layout for this entire page. So the first thing are these floating groups that I have at the top of the screen and the left side of the screen. Okay, the floating groups are what lets me create this kind of fixed frame right there, and I can scroll up and down on the rest of the page here. So I always have access to those menu items. So you can see here, this is floating vertically relative to the top and horizontally relative to the left side of the screen. And under the Layout tab, we have a fixed width setting of 175 pixels. So if I were to release that, I don't have fixed width, you see that it expands all the way. So I want to make sure that this is fixed to a more narrow column like this. Then the top floating group is also floating vertically relative to the top and left. But the layout here doesn't have a fixed width setting or a max width. We just want this expanding to the full width of the page. However, I do have a left margin of 175 pixels. That's the same width as the left-hand side, because I want it to clear that left side. I don't want them to overlap. So you can see that break there. That's where they're meeting each other, and we don't have any overlapping behavior, right? We get this very clean frame around our group main here, okay? Now, inside of the left side bar, I have my all categories group that I can click on. I have a repeating group here to show the list of dynamic categories. And then I have a conditional group for admin users. So by default, this is hidden. And the condition says if the user's role is admin, then we make this visible so we can have any admin related functions inside of that. At the top, I have my functions for logging in and logging out. So this group here, also conditionally visible only when the user's logged in. So this has the user details for the logged in user and a button to log out, and then an opposite button. So when the user's logged out, this is visible so that they can trigger a login function, right? Inside of the main group, like I mentioned, I had those two subgroups for two primary views. Okay, so the main thing here for this first view is really just this repeating group, which holds our list of posts. And inside of the cell, I have this designed to organize all the details about the post, the title, the category, the author's details, and our action bars, our other reusable element to show the likes and the replies. And this will also be a good time to talk about our plugins, because I'm using one of them right here for this particular design. So I'm going to jump over to the plugin screen real quick. We're using 3 different plugins here. All of these are free. The first one is Air Color Picker. This is going to come with, let me show you here, an element called Air Color Picker, and I'm using that for the category management, so we can get this input here. Okay, this is what the plugin gives us, and the value of this input is the actual color code, and that's what we ultimately save to the categories record. So if I go over to the database, you can see here, this is what I'm saving there so that I can display that color wherever I want dynamically. Okay, the second plugin is Relative Time. This is allowing us to create more human-friendly language about how much time has passed, right? You can see here 1 week ago or a few seconds ago. So that's where we're seeing on the right side of our post list, 19 hours ago, 11 days ago. If I click into a post, let me refresh the page real quick here. I also have that being used within the post itself. Again, I display the same information right there, as well as within the replies. Okay, how much time has passed there. So that plugin is going to come with a simple element called Relative Time, and you'll just add that to, in my case, I'm putting it inside of the repeating group because every post is going to have a different time frame, and you just want to give it the date you want to compare the current date and time with. So in this case, the post's last reply. And then a text just needs to reference the element's current value. And that's what the plugin is doing for you. It's actually creating that language 11 seconds ago, 10 hours ago, whatever it might be. Okay, so that's that plugin. Third plugin is Rich Text Editor. This is what gives us an editor that the user can interact with a full formatting bar. Right here, Rich Text Input. So that's what we're seeing when we go to create a new post right here. Okay, we also see this when we want to provide a reply within a post. And technically, we also have one here at the top of the screen. Let me actually go to one of my own posts that I'm logged in as, Monica here. Okay, so here, if I click on edit, you can see that the text here transforms into now an editable area. So I'm using a condition to move in and out of this kind of edit mode to either read the content or modify the content if I want. So I'll show you how that functionality happens in just a moment. But there's 3 places. Actually, no, sorry, there's 4. 4 places where we have that rich text input. You can see here within the replies, if I put in a reply, great assignment, like this, and reply. All right, so since this is my own reply, I can also edit it here. This is the 4th place where we have that input as well. And we have that kind of editing function there too. Okay, so that's our third plugin. Again, all 3 of these are free and they really just help the user experience be a little bit smoother here for us. Now moving into the thread view, let me close some of these down here. Okay, so we're going to see how the layout came together for this. And of course, you can design things in a, kind of a different order if you need. You may have other features, completely up to you, but this should give you a good baseline to work with. All right, so within my thread view, the first main group is just the original content, right? With the title, the action bar, the user information, the original author, and then their content. Notice that this is actually the rich text editor. So this by default is set to a disabled input, and we've set the styling to tooltip so that we don't see the formatting bar. In the condition, we have a custom state called edit mode that is a yes or no value. So when I click on this edit button, I'm going to swap back and forth between yes and no to kick in this condition or turn it off. If edit mode is yes, then we're going to change the styling of this rich text input so that it has a border, it has a background color. We change the style mode to regular so we can actually see the formatting toolbar. And of course, we enable it again so the user can interact with it. Okay, and we do the exact same thing down in the replies here. There's another rich text editor down at the bottom. Exact same situation. We have another edit button that's hidden right now, but it'll become visible if the user is the author of that reply. Exact same situation right here. Okay, so that this first group is the original content. The second group is going to have the rich text editor for creating a reply. And then the third group is going to have the list of all of the replies. So this is another repeating group down here, searching for replies where the parent post equals the parent group's post. So in other words, this views post, right? This is coming from that original custom state, the selected post. So we can dynamically see content inside of this thread view here. Okay, now before we go into all the functionality for the edit buttons and creating and editing the posts and all of that, let's take a quick look at our reusable elements. So we have 2 of them here, the action bar and the user card, what I'm calling the, for the user details here. Let's start with this one. I'm going to open this up here. So it's just a small little rectangle with my image to show the user's photo, and then a text to show their first and last name plus their role. Okay, now it's important that the data source or the data type of this reusable element is defined as user, so that wherever I place this, I can pass a user into it so it can dynamically populate with that user's details. So if we go back to the index page here, one of them is at the top of my screen in the floating group, right? So let me open this up here, right? So I have one instance right there, and you can see the data source in this case is going to be the current user, right? Whoever's logged in, that's the user information we want to see in the upper right. Versus if we go to the post list, right, our first view, this is sitting inside of a repeating group of posts. So this user is going to be the parent group's post creator. Parent group's post creator. And then same thing for within the thread. Okay, again, we have another parent group's post creator. And then within the reply, this is the parent group's replies creator. So you want to make sure that you pass in the right data source. It doesn't all, this can't all be the current user. It needs to be relative to the post or the reply or whoever's, user details you want to see there. Now the second reusable element is our action bar. So this has a handful of conditionally visible actions because we don't always want to see everything, everywhere we place it. Okay, so this one is a little bit more dynamic. You can actually see that at the reusable element level, we have 4 different properties. This gives us really flexible control over, which items we see and who has access to what. That way we don't have to create different versions of this bar and still keep things very uniform throughout the entire app. So 4 different properties. The first one is reply. Okay, so this is simply a reply value. It's optional. Not every instance of this reusable element is going to reference a reply. Then the second one is a post. We do want to have this required because for the action bar, we are at minimum, going to be referencing a post somewhere. So note that the field type is post here, right? It's looking at a post record. And this checkbox is, so this is a yes or no value. And this is basically yes or no for, is this a post action bar or is it a reply action bar? So this just helps us clean up our logic a little bit, keep things simple to kick conditions in or out. And then we have another property here for liked content. This is a list of our liked content records. And this is really just helping us stay efficient with finding the right record so we don't have to do more searches than we need. Okay, so that we can show counts and things more easily. So if we look at our buttons here, the delete button, this is not visible by default, and the condition has several conditions here based on who is allowed to delete the post or the reply. So actually, if we start at the bottom, you can see if the user is an admin, no matter what, they will always have the ability to delete. If the action bars for post is no, meaning this is a reply action bar, and the replies creator is the current user, then I can delete my own reply, right? This becomes visible. And then the same thing for post. If the for post property is set to yes, meaning that this is a post action bar, and the action bar's posts creator is the current user, then this is visible. I can delete my own post. For the like button here, this is going to show the action bar's posts like count. Okay, that's that number on the post record. And then we have a few conditions here as well. If this is a reply action bar, then we're going to show the replies like count. Right? You see how we're using the same elements and conditions to display the appropriate content rather than creating multiple reusable elements where we could have things inconsistent in their styling and functions. Okay, we have another condition here where if the action bar's liked content, this is that list property, creator contains the current user. Okay, so if one of those liked contents creators is me as a logged in user, then I'm going to color it so that I can see that I've already liked this item. It's just a visual cue for the user. Okay, and notice that if the user is logged out, we make this not clickable because we don't want to track likes from people who aren't in the system. They can see the number of likes, but they can't actually contribute. They have to log in. And then follow post is very similar. Okay, so this is to enable or disable this post as following. Remember, in adding it to the user's list of following posts here. Okay, so in the conditions, we have a few things. If this is a post record, then we're going to show this. This doesn't apply for replies. If we are already following this post, right, if the current user's list, that following post list, contains the action bar's post, then we're going to make it very clear visually to the user that they're following them. If I turn this on so you can see the preview there, changes the color, changes the text a little bit. Okay, it adds this icon. All right. And then again, if the user is logged out, we don't want to make this clickable because we can't have them follow the post if they're not actually a user in the system. And then here for replies, this is only going to be visible if the action bar is a post action bar because this is showing the number of replies for a post. Okay, so here we have that expression to show that count as well. So now that we have all of that logic for what should be displayed, when we add an instance of these action bars, so here, for example, we can indicate which values are necessary and provide the right data sources for each individual instance. So this one is in that first view within the list of posts. So this is a post action bar, so I'm checking the box here. I'm passing in a post record. Reply does not apply here, so I'm going to leave that blank. And then the liked content, I'm going to search for liked content for this post. So it's going to pass that in. And again, that helps me understand whether the user has already liked this post or not. Versus if we go to the thread and look at the action bar for a reply, this is left unchecked. We have a reply, we also have a post, and then we're also doing a liked content for the reply. Okay, so really powerful use case here for a reusable element where we only need to design that once, but we have very different use cases for it throughout, these various screens. Now we're going to dig into the workflow logic so you can actually see how to create the discussion topics and the replies within a thread. Starting with categories, again, this is something that the admin user can do in our example here. So when we click on the add category button, we're just creating a new category record, and this is going to auto save as we make changes to the color picker or the name of the category here, this input. So if we go over to that pop-up, all right, and we click on add category, take a look at this workflow. This is going to create a new category record. This is from your data list of things, create a new thing, and then you'll just choose the appropriate data type, so creating a new category. And by default, we're not going to have anything set, so it's just creating a blank record. And this input, as well as the color picker, they're both auto binding to the cells category. You can see the auto binding is turned on for both of these fields, and we're selecting the appropriate field there. So the input is auto binding to the name field, the error color picker is auto binding to the color field. Keep in mind that for auto binding to work, you do need to set up a privacy rule. This is in the data section under the privacy sub-tab. Here under the category data type, some rule needs to exist where auto binding is allowed. So I have a rule here called admin that is defined by the user's role. If their role is admin, then we can allow auto binding to both of those fields, right? We'll still allow everybody else to view the fields and find it in searches, so they can see the posts and everything organized by categories. They just can't auto bind. We're not going to give them the ability to edit that. So there's no workflows for those changes. It's more of an auto save behavior. Okay, so that's the first kind of function here. Now the next one is creating a post. Okay, so when we open up this pop-up here, this is from this button in the upper right. That's going to open up our next pop-up. We're going to have a drop down to show the possible list of categories. You can see that I'm pulling from the repeating group in our menu on the left-hand sidebar there. Since that's already done a search for it, I don't need to do another search for those categories. And I am defaulting the selection here to whatever the selected category is, if there is one. This way it just, saves them one click. So if I go to assignments and I create a post, you can see that assignments is already there by default. Looks like I have not deleted my category that was empty there. Okay, there we go. So it clears it out there. And then we have a regular input for them to enter in their title, and of course our rich text input. So the create button is going to do a few things here. We're going to create a new post record, save all three of those details, category, content, and our title. We'll hide the pop-up, and we'll also reset the pop-up to clear out the inputs. So if they come back for another new post, it starts fresh, like a new form for them. And we've already gone over the set state functions. Okay, so now moving over to managing a post and creating replies. Let's go to those views here. I'm going to turn the list view off, and we're going to go into the thread, the thread view. Okay, so let's take a look at this edit function here for the author of a post. Okay, let me pull open that button. So I actually have a custom state on this group up at the top here called group post and thread. This custom state is called edit mode. This is yes or no value. By default, it's no. And this button will only be visible if the user is the author of the post, right? Creator is the current user. This is visible. Okay, and so when the user clicks on this edit button, we're going to go back and forth. There's two of them here. Back and forth to either changing that state to yes or changing this state to no. So it's opposing conditions. So we click on the button, and only when the edit mode is currently no, then we change it to yes. Versus if it's currently yes, then we change it to no. And if we're changing it back to no, that means that we're done editing. So we're also going to modify the post. This is now committing the change to the database. And you can actually see that in the condition on this button, if the edit mode is currently yes, now we change the label to say save. Okay, so we get this effect here. Let me go back to one of Monica's posts. Okay, so right now it says edit. This is all disabled. If I click on edit now, that edit mode is now equals yes. And so now the button changes in appearance, and these obviously the inputs also change in appearance as well. So this will say save, and when I click on it now, it's going to change it back to no, but it's also going to update the post and resave the content and the title to whatever these inputs are here, right? So if they're modifying the title or modifying the content, both of them will get updated, right? And that custom state is also dictating whether these inputs are visible or not, or if they're editable or not. Right? We're doing the exact same thing for within the replies. We have another rich text editor. Over here we have another edit button, and the custom state is going to live on the group within the repeating group cell. You want to make sure that you take care for where you place your custom states. If you need to manage a state independently within cells, right? I want to edit this reply but not another one, then the state should live inside of the repeating group cell, not anywhere outside of the repeating group, because then you wouldn't be able to have separate values per cell. Okay, so I actually put a star here to help me identify it really quick, but you can see I have another edit mode state there, and it's the exact same thing with the workflows. We toggle back and forth between no and yes, and once we go back to no, we're just going to replace the content with the value of this rich text editor down here in the bottom. Creating the reply I have in the center here, and you can see that by default it's actually hidden. Okay, this is turned off, and the condition makes this visible as long as the user is logged in. We only want logged in users to be able to create replies. So clicking on this button right here, this is going to create a new reply record, save those two details, the content as well as the related post. We're also going to reset the group, right? Clear out that input. And this is going to make a change to any user that is following the post so we can add a new notification to their list. So we're going to take a look at all that functionality in just a moment. Now we're going to jump into a few supporting features such as managing categories, liking posts, following posts. There are a lot of other things that you can do within the forum, and these are just a few examples of common functionalities we see within discussion areas. You can of course expand on this to fit your own needs, but use this as a jumping point. Most of the interactions happen within this action bar. So we're going to start with this like button. And in the workflows, I actually have 4 different workflows for the single like button. One to like a post, one to unlike a post, then one to like a reply, and one to unlike a reply. Okay, so it just depends on whether the action bar is for a post or for a reply. So let's start with this first one here. So when the button is clicked here and the for post property is set to yes, and the action bar's liked content creator list doesn't already contain the current user, then this means that the user is liking the post. Okay, so they haven't liked it before. We're going to create a new liked content record. Post equals the action bar's post. The creator of this record is built in. It's the current user. Bubble will save that automatically for us, just like any other record in the system. And then we're also going to modify the post to recalculate the number of liked records. So we have an accurate count there. That way, if we, to display the liked count on the button, we can just refer to that number field, and we don't have to constantly be doing searches for those posts. Okay, so again, they click on the button, they have not yet liked this post, we're going to create the record, relate it to the post, and we're going to modify the post to recalculate that count. It's the action bar's liked content count. Okay, remember this liked content field here, this is the property. All the instances of this action bar is going to pass in a single search. Okay, it's the only time we should be searching for this. And so as soon as this new record is created, that will turn up in that search result automatically. And so we will count it up again and we'll have an updated value here. Okay, now unliking the post is going to have the opposite condition. It's still a post action bar, but the list of like contents creators already contains the current user, so we're going to delete that record. Again, we'll go to the list, we'll filter it down by the current user, or sorry, by the creator, and grab the only record. We do need to define this as a single value for this action, but there should only be one record. So we're going to say first item here. Right, and we're going to delete that. Again, this is another reason why we have this property that is a list of like content, so that we're not constantly searching for that same list over and over again. We can just reference it and then filter it down. And then we're going to modify the post one more time to recalculate the count. Okay, exact same process for the reply. It's the only difference is that we need to check whether the action bar's for post is set to no and our liked content record is going to save the reply rather than the post, and here the count is on the reply record rather than the post, but the exact same process for both of those. The next social function here is our following system, okay? So here we also have two options here, one to follow and one to unfollow. So we want to follow if the current user's following post list doesn't currently contain the action bar's post record. Okay, if we don't see that post in our list, then clicking on this means we want to add it to that list. So we're going to make a change to the current user, modify the following post list, and we're going to add action bar's post. Unfollow is just going to do the opposite. If that list already contains the post, then we're going to modify the user and remove the post. That one's very, very straightforward. We just add or remove based on whether they currently have it in the list or not. And what this now allows us to do when we keep track of posts that a user is following, we're going to go back to the index page. We're going to go back to when a reply is created here. Let's go to the thread and button reply. There we go. This third action that we skipped over earlier, okay, so we're coming back to this. If a user has a post that they're following, anytime a new reply is added to that post, we're going to add that post to the user's notification list because it's basically saying, hey, this is a post that you're following. It now has received an update. Okay, so this is a separate list on the user. So the way we find those users, we're going to search for users. Anyone whose following post list contains the post. You can see that we're also doing a minus item current user. We don't need to notify the creator of the reply of their own update. They may be following the post for other replies, but we don't need to notify them of their own update here. So we're going to leave them out of this list. Okay, but they're updating anybody who is currently following the post, and we're going to add the post to their notifications list. And so now if we go to this list view, in the design, okay, if we look at the title here, I have an icon that's hidden. This icon is hidden by default under the layout. This is not visible, but in the condition, if the user's notifications list contains the post, then this is visible. It's saying, hey, there's a new reply here, and this was a post that you were following, so we're just letting you know that there's something new for you to look at. And when the user clicks on a post that they've been following, okay, obviously we set the state to select the post, but we're also going to remove the post from their notifications list because now that they've clicked on it, they've seen it. Okay, so it's just like it's clearing your notifications that you've already seen. It's not going to remove them from the following list, right? They're still following the post. It's just removing it from their notifications because now they're up to date with it. And then the final related piece of functionality here is we've got two backend workflows to automatically update the posts count. So over here, just as a reminder, we have a like count and a reply count at the post level, again, to reduce the number of searches we're doing just to display these numbers here. And I'm using backend workflows to show you how you can create these automated triggers in one consolidated area, right, in the backend, rather than having these recalculate in multiple places and need to manage those multiple places throughout your app. So these are database triggers. When you go to add a backend workflow, I'm talking about this one right here. A thing is modified. Basically, Bubble is waiting for a change to happen in the database. Okay, I'm going to show you the existing ones that I have. So this first one is when a reply is modified. And I'm specifically having this respond to new reply records. And we're going to have a separate one for removed reply records, deleted reply records. So for the new, if the reply before change is empty, this is a state that's available with this type of backend workflow, before change and now, or after change. If the before is empty and the now is not empty, then that tells me that's a new record. So that's why I called this new reply. And we're going to modify the post to say, okay, we've got to recalculate the number of replies for this post because we just added a new one. So I'm going to search for replies for this post and count it up. And I'm also going to update the last reply date and timestamp. It's the reply now's creation date. Okay, and the delete will do the opposite. So if the before change is not empty and the now is empty, that means I've deleted the record, but I can still reference the state of the record before it disappeared. And we're going to modify the before changes post, recalculate the replies again. It should be one less. And then the last reply is going to grab the most recent reply before this one that just got deleted. So I'm searching for replies for this post, And the most reliable way for me to get the right creation date is I'm just going to do go to each reply's creation date and get the latest one from there. And that's going to be the new last reply. So I'll show you here just kind of with all of this in action. Let's go to Ross's. You can see that there's 4 replies right now. 33 minutes ago, if I come back in here and I add a new reply, this is my new reply. All right, and we can see here's my new reply just a few seconds ago. We can see now there's 5 replies, and the update to the post is now a few seconds ago. Okay, so we've modified both of those things. Now, if I go to delete my reply here, delete, okay, it's gone. Now we're back to 4. And you can see now the time frame has now been changed back to 33 minutes ago because that's actually the last update that we have existing with this thread. Okay. Now you can of course change that logic to work a little differently if you want to show different time frames, if you want to show that things have been edited. You can obviously control all of that. You can have different fields to keep track of those things. But these different components within the editor are going to help you manage all of those details. The backend workflows with these database triggers are super helpful for that. And also remember to leverage your reusable elements so that you can have a singular design for all these functions and be able to add instances throughout the application while keeping things incredibly consistent here. You don't have to kind of rebuild this multiple times. All right, I hope that was helpful. We've got more great lessons coming up for you on the next screen, and don't forget to register for that free extended workshop. The link for that is in the description below.